None of that is on you.
Oh, you don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving.
But if you just keep going, you find something new to fight for.
Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me.
Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the final breakdown of The Last of Us on HBO, because this is episode 9, which is titled Look for the Light. The first episode in the season was called When You're Lost in the Darkness. The last episode is called Look for the Light. You see what they did there? Let's get into this one. I'm going to talk about it a bit more in depth afterwards, my thoughts on the season, how I feel about it and everything. We're going to break down this episode. There's a lot in this. It's a beautiful end to the season. I haven't got a favourite parallel in this one. They're all amazing. When I first made the reaction trailer a few months back, I just had this great feeling that it were going to be amazing. I think they've pulled it off absolutely superbly. Let's get into the episode. It's a really good one. They've pulled the final episode of this off beautifully. I'm a little bit nervous on how they were going to pull off a few of these scenes, but it is just perfection. So let's get into it. So we haven't had an opening scene before the credits in The Last of Us since the first 2 episodes. I kind of knew they were going to do it in this one because this is the first time we've got to see the massive cameo of Ashley Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's been waiting for Ashley Johnson. A lot of people thought she was going to appear in the episode with Riley in the shopping mall as Ellie's mum, but they've left it for the final episode because it hurts more. Craig Mazin said that in the podcast, and it brings the story together with the whole thing with Marlene and the raising Ellie and all that stuff. And it's absolutely amazing to see Ashley Johnson. Of course, Ashley Johnson plays the voice role of Ellie in the games. When Ashley Johnson talks normally, if you listen to her or anything else, she sounds just like Ellie from the games actually. That's like her natural voice. And we start the scene in this farmhouse, and she's obviously running from the infected. She's heavily pregnant, and the farmhouse itself, it's got a little Firefly logo that you can see, and it also looks just like the farmhouse in The Last of Us Part 2. They've obviously done a little nod to that. You can see the little tractor, and it's out of the way. Great little scene with Ashley Johnson. She gets really stuck into this. You know, water's broken, there's an infected coming. The infected in the shape of a female infected comes rushing in at her, and she kills it with a knife. Obviously the knife that she's got Ellie, and then she gives birth to Ellie. It's a really like quite a brutal scene. She's giving birth while she's attacking an infected, and of course you see that she cuts the cord after she's been bitten. And then of course the credits roll. That's when we go back to that scene with the introduction of Marlene and the very beginning of this story. So it kind of brings that together, what people were thinking about Marlene, why she was protecting Ellie even before she was bitten. And it's because she was good friends with Ellie's mum all the way from the start. Ellie didn't really know this. She obviously passed on the flick knife that her mum left her. And in the game again, you don't see Ellie's mum. You see her in the form of a note that Ellie has in her backpack that you can read, and it's a note to Ellie from her mum telling her she wants to be like a great person when she's older and all that. So you do touch on Anna in the games, and you also touch on Anna in the comic books of The Last of Us, which is called American Dreams. I'll put a couple of images up on screen, and it refers to Anna in those old days. It shows you like Ellie in military school and all that, and it's quite a nice little scene with Marlene and Anna, and obviously Marlene can see that Anna's bitten. Anna tells Marlene, you know, she was bitten afterwards, and tells Marlene that twice, and clearly Marlene, she thinks she's lying, but she feels obligated to help Anna. Who better to play the mother of Ellie, Ellie's voice actress herself, which is an absolute fantastic touch.
Guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
We've seen Ashley Johnson as Anna, and keep your eyes peeled still, because there's another cameo in this episode of the show that nobody expected, and we'll come to that one a little bit later. After what happens in episode 8, after the death of David at the hands of Ellie, and you come to the scene where you can see Ellie's obviously a little bit tainted because of that. She's gone into herself a little bit. It's exactly how it is in the source material. And this scene right here, where Joel's talking to Ellie, it's very much like the game. You've gone from a point now where in the beginning of the show you'll see that Ellie would all talk all the time, and Joel just kept dismissing her, didn't want to know, they were very hard to break down. And it's kind of like now the roles have reversed. Now Joel's all talking, trying to make small talk with Ellie, and because of what's happened to her, she's quite the opposite now. And this first scene is, I mean, they have ripped from the game perfectly in this show, but this first scene, it's like a simple scene, but it looks exactly the same as the game. They've got like the motorhome, what you go into and you find a few bits and pieces, and Joel has found the food, and he talks about the guitar. I think it's really cool that they've put the bits in where Joel talks about playing guitar. He wants to teach Ellie, and she's still kind of ignoring him at this point. But again, straight from the source material, when it comes to the story of The Last of Us Part 2, the whole guitar thing does play quite a big role in that game. You actually play the guitar yourself. You have to strum the chords with a joypad, and I'm not going to venture too much into that. I don't want to put any spoilers in, but the guitar thing does play quite a big part in The Last of Us Part 2.
There you go.
Well, that didn't suck.
I'll take what I can get.
Now, so at this point, all the fans of the game have really wanted this scene, and as soon as you see Ellie drop the ladder and ignore Joel, you just know this scene with the giraffes coming. It's like an old bus terminal in the game, but you do try and give Ellie a boost and she ignores him, then she drops the ladder and runs off. You know exactly what she's running off for, and it's this amazing scene in the game and this great bonding moment between the characters where they see the giraffes roaming free and they start feeding it. They've just ripped it straight out of the game. The same dialogue. It's another amazing parallel. I haven't got a favourite parallel, I don't think, in this episode, so I'm just going to show them all. For you guys that have never played the games, I like to show these parallels. It just kind of brings it to life what they've done with the show and how much effort and detail they've actually put into it.
You see this?
Don't scare it.
I won't.
What are you doing?
It's all right. Come here. Hey, fella. Hurry up. Come on.
Don't scare it.
I won't.
What are you doing?
It's all right. Come here, hurry up. Come on.
Come on.
Hey there. So fucking cool. Hey there. So fucking cool.
It's a fantastic scene with the giraffe, and I had to laugh actually because I looked on Twitter and there's quite a few people on Twitter, they're like, oh, that's such bad CGI for a giraffe. It's a real giraffe. If you watch the making of this episode, they actually used a real giraffe and they just put a little bit of blue screen and like a bit of a soundstage around it to kind of just put in the background scenes in it. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are quite literally there with a giraffe feeding it. It's a fantastic other than that, because you kind of wonder on scenes like this, are they going to use CGI? And you see some shows in the past and they've used CGI with animals like this extremely poorly, to the point where they shouldn't just put it in at all. And this scene, they've really pulled it off. and it looks straight out of the game. It's great. They're actually using the same music also as they use in the game. Another one of Gustavo's track called Unbroken, which pulls off this scene really, really well. Fans of the game like myself, we've always been quite conscious of the placement of the music from the games in this, because I've noticed that there's a lot of sections of the show where they've used music from the second game also, and they do that in this episode a little bit later on that I'll come to. And it's also, it's quite an important scene, this, in the game, because it's coming, you know, it's coming towards the end, and it gets to this point where, you know, they've got this great bond, and Joel questions what they're doing to the extent where he says to Ellie, you know, do you really want to go through with this? We can just go back to Tommy's. And of course, Ellie being Ellie, you know, she feels like her life's got a purpose. You know, she mentions that a lot, even in the second game. And she's like, no, you know, we've been through everything. We've got to see this through. We've got to get to the hospital. And she feels like at this point it's a real purpose. But again, she still looks up at Joel and loves him, and it's that bond's really come through now in the story.
We don't have to do this.
We don't have to do this. I want you to know that.
What do you mean? What else are we supposed to do?
Nothing. We just go back to Tommy's. We forget about the whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
And when we're done, we'll go wherever you want. Tommy's, Sheep Ranch, the moon. I'll follow you anywhere you go.
Now again, I was watching this episode and I was just in awe all the way through. I mean, leading up to this, we've watched 8 episodes and it's been fantastic. The parallels, the scenes, the sets, the CGI, everything, they've made it look great. But I've been watching this episode and I'm just in awe of how they've pulled it off. They come to this camp, with like the old federal, the old military camp, and it just looks fantastic. But now at this point in the game, compared to the show, it's quite different how they pull this scene off, but it ultimately, it's the same conclusion. They're making the same point, and I think it's quite interesting how they've done that. As much as I love this scene in the game, I think it's equally as amazing in the show. So just to explain, in the game, I kind of knew they weren't going to do this, because back at Tommy's, when you first bump into Tommy, he has a photograph of Sarah, and he tries giving it to Joel. I'll put it up on screen to show you. He tries giving it to Joel, and Joel just passes it off. He just doesn't want to know.
Here. It's a little faded, but it still looks pretty good.
I'm good.
You sure? I mean,
I said I'm good.
When you get to this scene in the game, Ellie's stolen the picture from Tommy, and you don't know that, and she gives it to Joel, and it's quite an emotional scene, and Joel gets a little bit upset. And
Here. Maria showed this to me and I stole it. I hope you don't mind.
Well, no matter how hard you try, I guess you can't escape your past. Thank you.
he actually thanks Ellie for giving him the picture. They talk about Sarah. In the show, he mentions Sarah, but if you remember back in episode 3, he talks about someone shot at him and he shot back and he missed.
Someone shot at me and missed.
See, that's cool. Shoot back?
Yeah.
You get him?
No, I missed too.
He's actually referring to himself back in one of these military triages the day after Sarah died. He tried to take his own life and he flinched and he actually missed.
Well, they were way better at stitching you up than I was.
It was me. I was the guy who shot and missed.
And that all that time, we were always referring to that. But two completely different ways how they've executed this same scene in the game. But I think they've pulled it off like beautifully in both scenarios. So credit to them for that. And he comes out with that line where Ellie says, "Time heals old wounds," and he looks at her and he says, "It wasn't time that did it." And he's clearly referring to it. It's a very emotional moment in the show.
So time heals all wounds, I guess.
wasn't time that did it.
Different to how they did it in the game, but absolutely quality. I loved, as a fan, I absolutely loved how they made that small change, and the actors here just pull it off perfectly. Instead of keep dwelling on it, it's like, okay, get out the pun book and, you know, tell me some terrible jokes, which is typical Joel and Ellie at this point. At this point of the show, and again, it's something I did kind of expect. I would hoping they might have referenced it a little bit, but with the episode being quite short, I'm not surprised they left this out. And again, like the last episode, at this point there's a huge infected scene. And it's one of the harder parts of the game. There's clickers, there's runners, there's 2 bloaters in an underground tunnel that you have to fight your way through to get to this exact scene where they are on the screen behind me. And they've completely left it out. Again, I kind of expected it. The only issue I have with that is new people to the story of this who don't game and are watching the show for the first time. Some of those new viewers to it, I think they might be a little disappointed in that, because a lot of people are obviously expecting this big post-apocalyptic infected story, but essentially this story is about the characters. You see more of the fight scenes in the game because it's a game. Again, it creates the gameplay. As a fan, I'm not really that disappointed in it. I think the scenes with the characters are much more important in this. But, you know, they could possibly put a little bit more in, I believe. I mean, they had the scene at the beginning with Anna and the infected, which were quite a brutal scene. But yeah, that's a big difference in this one. Just like the one with David, how Ellie and David fought the infected. There's a big scene right here where Joel and Ellie fight a lot of infected in the tunnel. And right after you fight the infected in the tunnel scene, you actually work your way through like a flooded part of the tunnel. It's quite a dramatic moment in the game. And Joel ends up underwater, he has to save Ellie. As a result, Ellie's unconscious. And that's kind of mimicking in the show, basically. The Firefly guys just sneak up on them, knock them both out with like a flashbang. And that's kind of just taking that whole big scene away from the game and just simply doing it to introduce them into St. Mary's Hospital. Here we come to St. Mary's Hospital, and this is another great parallel to the game right here with Joel's conversation with Marlene. This is, again, it's ripped straight from the game. I'll put this one up on screen also.
Welcome to the Fireflies. Sorry about that. They didn't know who you were.
And Ellie?
She's all right.
Where's Ellie?
She wasn't hurt. Not even a scratch. She's mostly worried about you.
You came all this way. How'd you do it?
It was her. It was all her. She fought like hell to get here.
She would have been dead on day 1. We all owe you.
Just take me to her.
I can't.
She's being prepped for surgery.
The hell do you mean, surgery?
The doctors tell me the cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine.
He thinks it could be a cure, Joel. A cure.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
Find someone else.
There is no one else.
We didn't tell her. We didn't cause her any fear. There won't be any pain.
No, you take me to her. You take me to her right now!
And this is at the point now where Joel and Ellie have been split up. You know, Joel's just come around, and the whole journey through this whole story, you're trying to get to this point, and this is where it goes a very different way. Again, I just want to touch on, I think it's great how Mill Dandridge has reprised this role of Marlene. Mill Dandridge herself played Marlene in the game, and I think she's done a fantastic job, and some of the scenes in this episode, I think she's absolutely great. We'll come to the point where the penny finally drops, where Ellie's in surgery. The cordyceps grow like through the brain. Surgery is obviously going to mean the death of Ellie, and Joel, he ain't wearing that.
Keep walking. Where is she? Fuck you. I don't have time for this.
Keep walking. I said keep walking.
Where was the operating room?
And this is where you come to a big fight scene in the game, like the final big fight scene in the game, where Joel literally goes on a rampage, and they pull it off in the show really well. I mean, if we'd have just turned up at hospital, maybe had a little chat between themselves before they went to surgery, could have probably come to a different conclusion, but they didn't. So in the game, this is a big fight scene. Joel disarms the guard, shoots him, and at this point is desperate and he's on a rampage. On a hard setting in the game, this is a really difficult section. You literally just have to kill everybody that comes into your path at this point. Really represents it nicely in the show. I love how they've done it, and they're using the classic Last of Us track, a different version to show a bit more emotion rather than straight up action. I think it's pulled off and executed absolutely excellent. Which brings us to the scene. Now, fans of the game are going to know when it comes to this scene, I were nervous they were going to change this, and they haven't. They've pulled it off perfect. People who've never played the game watching this scene, you need to remember this scene in the operating theatre, because it plays a huge part in The Last of Us Part 2. I'm not going to put any spoilers in, but you need to remember this scene because it's a big deal. And that brings us to another cameo, ladies and gentlemen, because one of the nurses who's masked up is Laura Bailey, of all people. Now, Laura Bailey is a voice actress also in the video game world, and in The Last of Us Part 2 there's a huge character by the name of Abby who you're going to see in the second series, and Laura Bailey is the voice actress of Abby, and it's really cool that they brought her in. I mean, you'd hardly even notice her, and she just stood there as one of the nurses. Great little touch. They've used Tommy's voice actor, they've used Joel's voice actor, Ellie's voice actress, they've used Laura Bailey here as well. Put all the people who are relevant to the game in there, and it's just great that they've given them all this opportunity to be in the show. But yeah, going in this scene then, you see that Joel just walks in, they're about to do surgery on Ellie, and of course they try to stop him. He just shoots the surgeon dead. In the game, you see, you get to that point where the surgeon said, I'm not going to let you take her, and you've got no option in the game to do anything different. To get to Ellie, you've literally got to kill the surgeon. It's like a one path only option. And you can actually kill the two other ladies in the room if you want to in the game as well, but you can also just leave them, which he does in the show, and he just takes Ellie, and you have to run to the elevator. And again, it's another amazing parallel, this scene. They've really pulled it off straight out of the game, and I'll show that on screen as well.
You can't save her. Even if you get her out of here, then what? How long before she's torn to pieces by a pack of clickers? That is, if she hasn't been raped and murdered first.
Maybe. But it isn't for you to decide.
Or you. So what would she decide, huh? Because I think she'd want to do what's right.
You can still do the right thing here. She won't feel anything.
You know, this scene, it's a really, really big moment in the story, and it was a big gamble from them when they first made this game, because it's such a big game, and it's got quite an unexpected ending. But it's a great ending nevertheless, and you see a side to Joel that's always been there, a side to Joel that Ellie's never seen. You know, even the point where he comes to Marlene, he's not going to leave any stone unturned with this. He knows Marlene will just come looking for her, so he just kills her as well. And it's got to that point where everybody loves Joel as a character in the Last of Us shows. I love Joel as a character. He's one of my favourite ever characters in any story, in a video game. But essentially, story-wise, Joel is not a good person, and you've got to understand that going into the game, especially with like how this story unfolds even more. Because don't forget, at this point we're only halfway through the story, because there's The Last of Us Part 2. End of the day, the fans love the character. They'll just love this bond between Joel and Ellie. And it's like this unbreakable bond. Again, the amazing parallel continues with this part in the car with Ellie. And that's when you see how far Joel's going to go to protect what he sees as his surrogate daughter, if you would, and he's just flat out lying to her at this point. And you can see in Ellie's eyes that she's not quite buying it, and she looks a little bit confused in what's happened. She's got no recollection of it, of course, because she was sedated and she was unconscious throughout the whole process. Joel goes as far as to say that there's more people like her. He's just telling her everything that he wants her to hear at this point.
What?
It's all right. You're with me. Take it slow. The drugs are still wearing off.
What happened?
Turns out there's a whole lot more like you, Ellie.
People that are immune. Dozens of them. The doctors, they couldn't make any of it work.
They've stopped looking for a cure and taking us home.
I'm sorry.
Wait!
Wait. Let me go.
You've just come after her.
Just come after her.
And I'm so happy as a fan that they've just left it alone and they've just put it out there the way it should be done. Now the final scene of this is another scene they need to get right. So they've just gone and took it straight from the game. Again, I was a little bit nervous. I didn't want them to change anything on this, and they haven't. Another parallel. This episode, like the last one, it's been full of them. I'll show it on screen. And it's just awesome how these actors have pulled this off. You can see Joel's talking about Sarah, and Ellie's just not listening to him. It's very much like this in the game. It's the very final part of the story in the game also. And Ellie just stops him in his tracks, and she brings up the whole thing about when she first got bit, what happened with her and Riley.
Back in Boston? Back when I was bitten?
My best friend was there, and she got bit too. We didn't know what to do, and she says,
Let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
her name was Riley. And she was the first to die.
And Joel comes out with that line where, you know, you find something to keep fighting for, and he's referring to Ellie, and you can see the doubt in her face.
But if you just keep going.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now I know
lies to her face. You can see she's very wary of what he says, and there's that final little clip of the game and the show itself where she says okay, and it ends right there with that amazing track by Gustavo called The Path.
Keep finding something to fight for. Now I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me.
You find something new to fight for. And maybe that's not what you
Swear
want.
to me. Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
I swear.
Okay.
Okay.
I was saying to my wife that's used this song a few episodes ago, and I was like, oh no, that's the song from the final scene. I hope they don't change the final scene because of that, and they haven't. They've used this song how it should be used, exactly like the game. I'll show you on screen. And it's the perfect ending to the story, and it was a nervous ending to the story when they originally made the game back in 2013, how it ended like that. And then for fans of the game, right there, we had to wait 7 years for a sequel. 7 years for it to hang on the edge like that, and it was the most anticipated game sequel ever made.
We can't thank you enough, all of you, for your support and making 2016 such a special year for all of us at PlayStation. Thank you very much. But there's one more thing. Please enjoy.
I just want to give my thoughts on it in general. Now, this year I'm going to be 44 years old. Now, I've kind of been into gaming from the beginning because of my age, and my first ever computer, most of you probably won't have ever heard of it, were a Commodore VIC-20, even before the Commodore 64, and I've gone from there all the way through, and as you can see, I'm currently now on PlayStation 5. This game and the second game are the best 2 games I've ever played in my life, by a mile, and I've played a lot of games. When it comes to one-player story-driven games, I've never played one more than once. I play it, I love the story, and I move on, just like I would with a movie or something. But The Last of Us Part 1, I've played 6 times. The Last of Us Part 2, I've played 6 times. I've never done that with any game in history, apart from these 2. So naturally, when it comes to an adaptation, I was a bit nervous about it, but I was kind of excited about it at the same time when they said it were going to be done by HBO, by Craig Mazin, and Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game. I thought this is going to be good. And let's be honest with you, again, going back to when I was a youngster, I always remember years ago, when I was a kid, I went to the cinema to see a movie called Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins. I don't know who remembers that, and let's be fair, it was absolutely terrible. And ever since then, there's been bad adaptation after bad adaptation after bad adaptation. And let's be frank, they are all awful. And then here comes this concept that they're gonna recreate The Last of Us. They've absolutely nailed it. You know, I've got a few little gripes about it, but they're just small things, really small things, like the Kathleen character. Maybe not enough infected scenes, but they're just such minor nitpicks. I expected not to do much infected scenes. I don't hate the Kathleen character. It's all right, but personally, I weren't a massive fan of it. But all in all, the amount of detail and effort that they have put into this show is absolutely second to none. And as a gamer, in my lifetime, I never thought I'd see an adaptation this good when it comes to video games. So it's blown me away, and I cannot wait for part 2. Now, you guys who's watching this for the first time, you haven't seen anything until you see part 2 of this game. It's a bigger game, there's more characters, the story continues. I don't want to spoil it in this video, but the story continues from that doubt in Ellie's eyes, and it gets referenced a hell of a lot in the second game. And this, compared to the first game, it is absolutely brutal. And Ellie's character is brutal. The other characters in the game are. They're going to make the second season. It's already confirmed. Bella Ramsey's still going to be playing Ellie, because a few people were questioning that. It's heavily based in Seattle, so anybody watching this video who lives in Seattle, be prepared for some road closures, because 80% of the game is based in Seattle. And I've been saying for quite a while that in The Last of Us Part 2, it's not going to play out as a show the same as The Last of Us Part 1. They're not going to be able to do it scene by scene, parallel by parallel, like the game, because of the way the game plays is quite a lot different to the first one, and it's heavily based in 2 people's perspectives. They're going to change it up a lot, I think, the second one. It's probably going to have a bigger budget. They've already said that there's going to be more infected in it, and they might have listened to the fans when it comes to that. But again, the second game, it was a 7-year wait on that cliffhanger for the first one. When that game was announced, it had the biggest buzz in the video gaming world that I've ever seen in my life. I think it's the best game ever made, as I've just said. But if you want to see a massive, and I mean massive, fan base get divided with a sledgehammer, wait until you see the story of this game, and I'm just going to leave it there. That being said, guys, I'm going to bring this video to a close. This was absolutely awesome. I've loved every episode. When it comes to more content for The Last of Us, I'm going to keep putting it up on this channel. Thanks for everybody who's got involved. Oh, it's a new channel for me. I'm not getting many views on this. I don't expect it, you know. I just like making this content. I kind of like being involved with something I really enjoy. There's been quite a few of you I've been conversing with over private messages and that, we've been talking about it. It's been a lot of fun. My wife's been enjoying it. She's someone else who's watching this for the first time, and I think that's absolutely great. You know, it's great to see people's reaction to this who's watching it for the first time. When you see scenes like the thing with a giraffe, it hits harder because there's very few nice moments in this story. So it always hits harder when you see the giraffe scenes, you know, the pun book scenes, because essentially it's a tragic story, is The Last of Us, but it's executed like no other game I've ever played in my life. When it comes to story, it came out in 2013 and it was absolutely groundbreaking. So they've put it to screen perfectly. I can't say any more good about it personally. But with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like them, give them a like, subscribe. There's going to be more content, especially when it comes to The Last of Us. I'm definitely going to be using this channel for more of that content. There's a chance in the future that I might actually be playing through the games either on Twitch or putting them up on this channel. We'll see what I'm going to do with that. I'm not quite decided, but that's it, guys. I'm going to leave it there. Give me your thoughts on the episode. We're closing it out here. So with that being said, I shall see you in the next one on this channel, whenever that may be. Take care.